I know my talk is entitled Blended Learning because this is what people understand and this is what is being used. This is my plan. All right, we're going to try together to define what is blended learning. Then I think it would be good if we could look at the strengths and weaknesses of face-to-face and online, having, of course, defined what is face-to-face and what is online. Then we look into the benefits of blended learning. Because we would have looked at the weaknesses of face-to-face and online, I'm just going to concentrate, because of time, on the benefits of blended learning. And then, of course, the most important thing is the blend. What is the best blend, if there is one? And a brief conclusion, obviously, again, I'm going to concentrate on the benefits to learners and teachers alike. The word blended learning, by the way, is kind of newish. It originated around 2000, and that is exactly when I became director of the Language Center, and I was told by my university to go from a language center for linguists to a language center for everybody in the university, which is students and staff alike. So we went from having 500 students to up to 12,000 students. And of course, the university, being very lavish with money, said, there is no money. Thank you very much. They said, the good news is that the mission is a good mission for you. This is what you want. The bad news, I said, I know, no money. They said, that's right, I said, yes. Right, so this is how I started to really think about, all right, how can we use technology and how can we use it to enhance and support language learning? And having done with my colleagues a lot of research and development with big firms, big technology firms, and the trial was how do you deliver online language? And language is very hungry in terms of videos, in terms of audio, in terms of databases. We were a good guinea pig, so we learned a lot. So we did 6 years of research and development, and we learned a lot. So when I was told the good news that I was going to have no money, but I was going to have a lot of students, I thought, okay, there's no way we can, and also that the 3 hours we were given for language learning was being cut down to 2 hours. And there was no way we could do it over 3 terms, because the last term is for exams. So we had to do it over 2 terms. When you know in Cambridge 1 term is 8 weeks, you multiply that by 2 is 16 weeks. Okay? So that was the good news for me before I had Christmas 2001 and New Year 2001, or Christmas 2000 and New Year 2001. So what I did was to really sit down and say to myself, okay, you know, how can I use technology in the best way possible to support learners, and what is the role of the teacher? So I spent about a year trying to sort of sort that one out. And we started by developing a course in French and German, because at the time, these were the 2 languages most needed by our students. And I called it integrated learning, because I had to prepare a paper for the university to agree with what I wanted to do. And I called it integrated learning. And although I call my talk blended learning, because this is what is accepted, I think integrated learning actually is a better word, because it really shows that you integrate both environment for the best of learning purposes. Okay, so what do you think blended learning is? Can you give me an example of blended learning? You know, what do you have in blended learning?
Well, half of it may be presential, so you have the teacher presenting,
right?
Teaching.
So classroom.
And then, you know, half or the other part online.
Right. So what do you have online?
Exercises,
yes.
Tests. We have tests, we have assignments, and it's vital that we have the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you agree with that? Yeah. Anything else online you can put apart from exercises and tests and
maybe games.
Games. Anything else?
Readers.
Yes. Can do reading online. Anything else?
Forums, chats, interactivity.
Yes. Chat rooms, obviously. Anything else? You know about the Open University, don't you? Yeah. Now, would you say that what they have delivered over the years before, obviously, you know, blended learning, would you say that it is a kind of blended learning? Because they had videos, audios, they had telephone support,
Yes.
yeah? And then they have, every so often, you came together. So, you know, that's a kind of blended learning. I have put a few here. I'm not going to read it out, because you can read. Which is the one? I'm trying to give some definitions, and I think it would be good if we agreed together what you think is the best definition of those 4. In a traditional sense, to have number 3 combines a variety of delivery modes such as lectures, seminar, tutorials, workshops, and group work. This is also blended learning, isn't it? Yeah? So, but the way we understand blended learning today, the bottom line, yeah, I think so. Because, and what would you say is the key word in that bottom line?
Integrated.
Appropriately.
Thank you. That's what I think. And actually, if we can keep in mind appropriately and appropriate when we go to the blend, you know, that is going to be absolutely key. The next one is, right, strengths and weaknesses. So face-to-face, first of all. Right. You said, and I absolutely agree with you 100%, that teaching in the classroom is key. Very, very important. Right. So what are the benefits, you think? What are the strengths? We're going to start with the strength of face-to-face. You're all teachers, so you know. Come on.
Real-time feedback.
Yes, real-time feedback. Why is real-time feedback important? Why is it important?
That's when they do the learning.
Yes, because they know what they don't know, so to speak. And therefore, they can bridge the gap. Absolutely. Anything else?
Well, you learn about the culture. I've got Brazilian kids
Yes.
that learn with native speakers.
Yes.
So they learn content and cultural aspects as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, no, I cannot be late with that teacher.
Anything else? Strength? Yes.
You can take advantage of a teaching moment. Something you haven't planned on teaching, but a student brings it up, so you stop what you're doing and then take it.
Yes, yes. I mean, we all do that. We all do that. We all prepare carefully our lessons, don't we? And then comes a time, and this is actually the mark of a good teacher, comes the time when you feel, you know, I'm not going to carry on doing what I have planned. I have to perhaps, you know, go back. Or perhaps I was going to tackle that aspect, but that's not going to be today, you know, emphasis, because I've just realized that we really ought to hammer out that bit of text or video or audio or grammar or whatever. And that's the mark of a good teacher, that you kind of, you know, you have prepared your lesson, but you kind of readjust it so that you really, what you deliver is real language learning. That's what you deliver. You know, you really help real language learning because you reassess and you go back, or you move forward. For example, I could never understand a teacher who would say, oh no, I can't tell you about X because we're going to do that next week.
No.
Sorry? I want to know now, you know. And if you have that interest, my God, grab it, you know, and build on it, you know, absolutely build on it. So, yes, we have all that. Anything else about the face-to-face strength?
Motivation.
Yes. Can you expand on that?
Learning in isolation can be very difficult. There's a high dropout rate in distance learning courses, for example. So just being around other learners,
Yes.
other people who also do
Yes.
the same thing is
Yes.
motivation.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And what do you think the feeling of the other learners in the classroom? What do you think the feeling is about the motivation? I mean, if you are more motivated as a learner because there are all the other people and you learn from them, do you think it goes back and forth?
Yeah, and there's also the element that people do like to perform in front of other people.
Exactly.
They like to demonstrate their mastery.
So obviously what you've just said is very important. They like to perform. So we will look into that because actually the way the teacher operates in a blended learning environment is a different way from the more traditional way. And we will be discussing that. So again, let me give you a few of the strengths that I have dreamt of and tell me which you think is the most appropriate. Or do you think all are appropriate? Or would you grade them? Do you think they're all appropriate?
Yes.
Yeah? Is there one which you feel is more appropriate than the others? I mean, for you.
Maybe the third one?
This is what you were saying when with real feedback. Because real feedback also means that you respond to learners' needs, don't you? And then if you have to go backwards, or you tackle a question which you didn't intend to tackle, then it is absolutely responding to learners' needs.
It'd be really nice if more teachers actually listened intently to this.
Yes. I mean, I put it one not on purpose, because to me, this is how you learn what the needs are. Yeah, you can test them. Of course you do. Well, we do. We always test them. But there are certain things which you cannot test. And there are certain things which they do not tell you. And when you listen, when you take a back seat, and that's what with the dynamic is, changes in the blended learning. in the classroom a lot of the time, not all of the time, because you do need also to give some input and you do need to give some feedback. But a lot of the time, they will be the one performing, as some of you have said. They will be the one performing, because that's the social environment when they can put into practice what they would have learned and indeed practice online, but in real time this time. So let's hope. Let's hope. So these are the strengths. What do you think the weaknesses are of face-to-face? Before I put it up, what do you think the weaknesses are? Yes?
If the ratio from teacher to student is too high, you really cannot tend
Yes.
to everyone's needs.
Exactly. That's one big problem. Anything else?
To cater for different thinking times, sometimes it's a very noisy environment, and there are people putting their time to think, and
Yes.
and you just lose that person.
Yes, you've got that. Anything else? Yes?
Well, the opposite of motivation, it could be, demotivation, distractions. If somebody's going, on iPad or whatever, they disrupt the rest of the class.
Yeah, you could have one or two students monopolizing, the speaking time. If it's not well managed by the teacher, it happens. This happens. Anything else? What is safe for a teacher? Well, what is believed to be safe for a teacher? If you have a lot of students, would you tend to kind of go back and just do input? And it's natural, isn't it? If you have, we had a big project with Tsinghua in China, and their English classes were 50 students, 50. And that's when we developed the blended learning with them for their own needs. And they said, well, obviously, there's no way we can do, speaking practice. I said, of course, I understand that. I said, however, how many hours do you have? And they had quite a lot of hours. They had 5 hours a week. And I thought, my God, it's a dream. 5 hours a week, that's fantastic. So I managed to, talking to them and training them and discussing with them to say, okay, well, instead of having all the 50, you see them in smaller groups. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, they will have more time with you, even though it appears that they have less time in timetabled, but they will have more time in interacting with you and themselves than during the five hours. All right, let's look at the weaknesses. So, too much time on input, because that's, in a way, it's kind of self-protection. Yeah, if you have too big a class, or you feel, oh, never mind, next week, I'll give them more time. So too little time on interaction. And we all do that. We go for the majority, because we have what? We have 10% or say 15% at the top, 15% at the bottom, and then the rest is the majority. And we tend to cater for that kind of majority, which is understandable. So in a way, we're losing 30% or so of our learners. And obviously, there is not enough time for interaction. The learners do not interact with their peers or even with the teachers. So if they have problems, you will not know about their problems. If there are big gaps in their learning, you will not know about the big gaps. And they will kind of increase, week on week. And what I think is very important is the last point. I don't know if you agree with me, but people need to think. People need time to pause and think. Some people have the answer like that straight away, but not everybody has got an answer like that straight away. Some of them have got, have more reflective type learners, and they need to stop, think, and then they will address the question. So for all these reasons, I feel that, a blended learning environment is a good way of catering for those. Now let's go on to online now. Strength of online. Right, I'm listening. Strength of online.
Well, rather like your last point, because it's self-paced, you can
Exactly.
slow down, you can
Exactly.
You can return on things.
Exactly.
Down, where you might get left behind in a fast pace.
Exactly. You can access any time, can't you? Mm-hmm. And you can access anywhere now. Yeah, so that's a good thing, 24/7. Let me give you a very interesting statistics. When we developed our integrated learning, to start with, because it was 2000, but it used to be on the internet, we could monitor very, very carefully when the learners would log in, how long they would stay, watch a video or read a text or do an activity or look at a grammar exercise or whatever. And we noticed that some of them would listen to a 2 or 3 minute video for up to 20 times. 20 times. There is no way you can have that in a classroom. Twice, and that's it. Finish, no more. No time. You got it, good. You haven't got it, well, tough. 20 times. But the other thing is when they would do the learning, what time of the day do you think they did, log in? From midnight at 1 o'clock. And interesting, I thought, I can't believe that. But aren't they tired? How come? And then I went and read, and I talked to a colleague of mine at Churchill, and she's a psychologist, and she said, oh, no, it's very well known. I said, yeah, to you it's well known, not to me. It's very well known that at this point in time, the brain actually is much more relaxed and can absorb more easily. So here you are, guys. 1 o'clock, that's when you log in and you prepare your whatever. Okay, so let's have a look at what I've put online and see whether you agree with me. Have a look and tell me which you think you disagree with, or which are the ones you feel, unhappy about, or whether you agree with everything.
I think point 4, online facilitates learner-to-learner interaction. It can do, but this is often very hard to create.
Absolutely.
It's not usual to create these forums, all sorts of areas for student communication.
Absolutely. A course I just finished. The first 90 hours was all online. We didn't meet the learners at all. And for 30 hours, then we had a whole week intensive with them. And of course, we tried to facilitate their learner-learner interaction. And also, no, let me tell you, it was even more complex than that. These were students who were all over the world. They were, Australia, Japan, America, Ireland, and the UK. And there were 2 or 3 working in a group. Even for the 2 or 3 working in a group, that was hard enough. And to make them work across continents with, 8 hours difference and all that, it was a nightmare. It was a real nightmare. So I put that there because a lot in the literature says that. But this is hard. Now, how do you think that can be overcome? What do you think we should do to overcome that? Or can we do anything to overcome that?
It's a combination. I sort of 16 years ago, I did an online course, Masters in EdTech, and the University in Australia. And there were 2 things that really helped. One is that actually it was part of your overall grade, so you were incentivized as part of the mark to participate. The second thing was writing tasks or creating problems where communication is essential to solve those problems. But they have to be realistic.
Exactly. So that's precisely right. That's exactly right. We only managed to pick them up and have them interact when they had to deliver their major, assignment. And then, because they had to present it together and write it together, then they really had to interact. And at that time, so it was like 5-6 weeks before they had to hand in the assignment, we started to give them, little questions, or attract their attention to certain problems, or say, how would you design that, or what do you think about that? And then they started to react. So what do you think it means, that at the end of the day, what does it mean, really? Why would any one of us react?
There has to be authentic communication goals, and I think that's difficult to create online.
Yes.
You've got to create that authenticity. You need to communicate with the person.
You need the authenticity, but also you need the need.
Yes.
I mean, if they need to do that, they will do it.
Yes.
If they think that it is in their interest, then they will do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've agreed on the strength of online. Weaknesses of online. What do you think?
Dropout rates perceived as boring.
It could be perceived as boring, yes.
It's not so good for students who are not accustomed to autonomous learning.
That's a big problem, yes. So again, it's a question of, training the learners.
So for example, the online part would not work with teenagers in Brazil because they don't have this autonomy. They
Right.
need the presential part.
Yeah, but the good thing about online is that it does develop autonomy.
Yes.
So you can't wait for them to be autonomous to do the online. It's got to be together. Yes.
I'm the facilitator of online course, and one of the things that has been really hard for my students is just the
Right.
I
Really?
get more emails about, I got blocked from this page and I don't know
Oh.
how to get to this part and the workbook doesn't work
Oh,
and my grades aren't blowing up and then I did 3 hours of work and I exited the window without saving it. I get more of those emails than
Really?
I get, could you explain to me about this topic, or
oh,
I get more
okay.
technical stuff.
Okay. Well, I suppose I'm lucky then, because it's the reverse. I asked them, I need to upload that. What do I do? You know, I tried and it just failed. They tell me. We use Moodle, by the way. I don't know which platform do you use. Many of you use Blackboard or Moodle. Yeah, the usual one. All right. Well, let me share with you what I came up with. Weaknesses of online. The first one, obviously. In fact, I hate some courses are developed in such a way that you've got online, you've got a classroom online. Well, to me, that's a bit strange, let's say. Real-time communication is really when, when you kind of, plunge and swim. Yeah, you dive and you swim. That's real life. And the classroom has got to be, the sphere where you use that in the, as much as possible. The point 3, I think we saw it in the strength of classroom interaction, and obviously it's a weakness for online. Let me tell you one thing. There's a lot of research now. I'm really pleased about that, about blended learning. A lot of what I'm telling you come from research or my own experience or my own research. There is something which is very interesting, and again, it's cultural, and that we mustn't forget that culture is a very, very important element in learning, any kind of learning. And 2 Chinese researchers presented a very interesting article about 2 years ago at a conference, IATEFL. And they said that one of the things that came up again and again and again with their learners in Hong Kong was that they were not satisfied with the online course because they saw the teacher as not teaching them, and therefore they could not learn. That was when they were interviewed after the first term. Then they were interviewed again at the end of the year, so they had nearly a whole year, and by then they understood more the dynamic, and of course they were explained more things. And then they said, oh, we see now what the role of the teacher is. We understand better the role of the teacher. So culturally, blended learning is not something that you kind of, easily display and they will buy in immediately, not necessarily. So there is a lot of acculturation to be done. So we've looked at strengths and weaknesses of both online and face-to-face. Now, the big question is why and how. Would you like us to go to how and forget about the benefits of blended learning? Because in a way, we have looked at them. So instead of putting them all together. All right. So how do we implement blended learning? What do you think the first thing we should do? Let's talk about the blend, okay? The blend is how much online, how much in the classroom. Right. Now, I get a lot of emails and questions. So how much should I do online? How much should I do in the classroom? There's no way I can answer that because I don't know your learners, I don't know your environment, I don't know the constraints of your establishment, I don't know their needs, I don't know any of that. So the blend, the most important person in the blend is the one who conceives the course, and that is the teacher usually. Now, how do you think you can conceive a blend? I mean, do you think that there would be, depending on levels, there would be more according to levels that has got to be done in the classroom than online, or is it irrelevant? Is the level of the students irrelevant to the blend?
Very low-level students usually need more teacher input.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, that's when I started the integrated learning, I did 30% online and 70% face-to-face. And that actually, to this day, is stays. So when they went from A1, A2 to B1, B2, and then above B2, then it alternated. It became, instead of 30-70, it was 50-50, and then 70-30. And in the 70-30, the input of the teacher is really giving feedback at the end because they come up, they are the teachers. Each one, in turn, takes it to deliver the lesson. And what they do, because it's Cambridge and we're teaching a lot of researchers, what they do is they talk to you about their research. But because the classroom is made up of a lot of different people, not people from their field necessarily, is very, very good exercise, not just in language learning terms, but cognitively, because they have to put themselves at the level of, the audience and be able to talk about their research in terms that a lay person can understand. And that is, I've learned a lot. It's fantastic. I go into the classroom and I say, oh, tomorrow, next week we're going to hear about anthropology, in the Galapagos, or I'm going to hear about, the next best thing in IT. And I stop them and I say, excuse me, you've used that word. Nobody understands that word. You have to explain it to us. And to do that in a foreign language is not that easy. Okay, so implementing blended learning. What do we have to take into account? I'm not a technologist at all, but having done 6 years of research and development in technology, I understand the technology. It doesn't mean that I can use it very well, but I understand what it can do. I don't understand what it cannot do. That's my problem. So I want the technology to do more than what it can, but it's evolving, at a tremendous pace. Anything else? Yes.
You have to take into account how much access your students have to the technology.
Yeah. Obviously, that's an important part. And I must say, when we delivered the course in China, we had problems not with the students, but with the infrastructure.
Yes.
So you really need to get that infrastructure right. Otherwise, forget it. Anything else?
I think while designing your course, you also take into consideration mixed ability.
Absolutely.
And then
yes.
arrange your teaching level of support accordingly.
That's the beauty of online, is that you can not just mixed ability, but you remember these kind of bottom-top majority, then you can cater for all of that, but also the kind of different learning styles. Some people like reading and listening at the same time. So give them the, they listen to an audio or they view a video, give them the subtitles, yeah? And if they want a transcript, give the transcript. And it's up to them whether they have the subtitles or not, it's they control it. So the control has got to be, onto the student. You don't control it, you just give it. I like to say that the good thing about online, if you do a good blended learning course, which I would prefer to call integrated course, is that you offer a very rich menu. And they pick and choose from that menu. But you are the master chef. Yeah? You are the master chef. So you absolutely prepare the most beautiful course that they can have. And then they can pick and choose. And then they might be, enticed to taste something which they think, oh, no, I will never be able to do that. Well, try. You see. Okay, let's have a look. Now, I think it's very important, the first point, because in a way, this is what makes it different as a teacher. We become much more facilitators. I've put clients' constraints because I know that, in some courses, the students are more clients than students. And there are constraints. So what kind of constraints do you think there are? Let's go through some of the constraints. Time. That's a huge one. So you cannot expect someone to go online for 5 hours a week if, in effect, these people have got only 2 hours a week. Therefore, you have to design the course in such a way that it is feasible. So the constraints is important. Apart from the student's constraint, I'm not sure whether I've put it there or not. The institution constraints. Mm-hmm. So you need a good infrastructure. You need to be able to have X number of hours with the students. You need to be able to have the right technologies to work with you. And you need the time to develop that course. And it's not that because you've developed it once, that's it, it's done. Put it on the shelf. Because that is the beauty of online, is you can revise, add, subtract, modify. So I think we've said all that, yeah? What the plan should take into account. Needs and wishes, Very important, the wishes. Aims and objectives of any course, that's where you start. You start with the needs, and then what are the aims? Where do I have to get them? These are the needs, where do I have to get them? And then to and fro, to and fro, to and fro, all the time, to and fro. And of course, institution constraints, because that is very, very important. Okay, now you tell me, what should the blend privilege? All 4 skills? More the receptive than the other skills, than the productive skills? Yes?
I think you broke it down a bit more granularly, and when you say productive skills to be done online, writing is probably better done online, but speaking is better done in the classroom.
Yes.
So it needs to be...
Yeah, but can't you prepare the speaking online? Yes, you can. So overall, I think we can say safely that the receptive skills are very well done, catered for online, but you can prepare the productive skills online. So in a way, you know, if online is used appropriately, and that's where the word comes again, then, you know, all 4 skills can be catered for, you know, to a certain degree. Right, that was my title. Is it a learning panacea? Well, I've got a question for you. If you were to adopt this approach, how would you go about it? I'm not expecting you to answer now. I'm expecting you to think it through. And I would like you to tell me whether blended learning is a learning panacea. I'm not going to tell you anything. It's your session. So what do you think?
Well, we've been using it for 7-8 years at Untitled São Paulo, Brazil. It works perfectly.
It works perfectly in Brazil. Does it work perfectly elsewhere?
With teenagers.
With teenagers.
Yeah.
We've been about 60% of our activity is blended learning with Touchstone in France. We're really happy with it.
Mm-hmm. So it seems to be working.
Yeah.
So would you say it's a learning panacea?
No.
I don't think anything is a learning panacea. No, good. So we all agree. Right. I think these are my conclusions. The teacher is paramount in designing and delivering appropriate integrated courses. The blend makes or breaks a course, absolutely. And you have to start with the end in mind. You know, what are the aims and objectives of the course, the needs of the learner, and institution constraints. That, in a way, we've looked at all that. So all I would like to say is there is a white paper which I have written for CUP called Blended Learning, Blended Language Learning. And thank you for your attention.